Hello and welcome to the Unique CPA with your host, Randy Crabtree. We're committed to creating a thriving community of accounting professionals who are physically and mentally healthy, fulfilled, and energized by their work. Our ultimate goal is to elevate the reputation of the accounting profession and vastly improve the lives of those in it. The Unique CPA is brought to you by Tri-Merit, the specialty tax professionals.
Today's guest is someone who's not just challenging the norms of the accounting profession, she's rewriting them. Courtney De Ronde is co-founder and CEO of Ford's Financial and Management Consulting, where she leads a powerhouse team delivering virtual CFO, audit, and tax services to organizations that want to grow with intention, not chaos. She's the creator of the simple ScaleUp system, a strategic framework that's helping business owners scale wisely by aligning finance, structure, and execution. She's also a faculty member with Upstream Academy, where she's helping to shape the next generation of accounting leaders. Courtney is proof that running a firm differently can actually mean running a firm better. Let's dive into how she's helping others grow with clarity, energy, and purpose. Courtney, welcome to the Unique CPA.
Thanks for having me, Randy. So glad to be with you.
All right. So, Courtney, I don't know. You and I first met 4, 5, I don't even know how many years ago. We were on some webinar together with Jeremy Clopton, and I was just so impressed hearing the story that you had to tell there. And do you remember where it was and who it was? I don't even remember.
I think you're right. I'm sure it was probably a webinar with Upstream or some kind of an event. I'm sure that was with Upstream where we got to meet several years ago. And so, yeah, it's been fun to hear your journey along the way and just the different ways that you've approached time and stress management and mental health, and glad to be with you.
Well, thank you for that. And it's been fun. Just your story, your journey, what you've done with your firm has been something that I've talked about quite a bit ever since we originally met, because I just am so impressed anytime, but specifically you, but anytime anybody tries to do things different, anytime anybody realizes that we don't have to continue doing things the same way we always did just because it's been done that way. Mm-hmm. When somebody challenges the status quo, when somebody decides, let's try something different, let's make things better for people in this profession, I just get so excited. And so that's why I'm going to go on a rant here for a minute, but that's why anybody that's listened to the show before, or specifically seen me speak out at the conferences or online on other podcasts or whatnot, your story often comes up because I'm just so impressed at what you've done with your organization. So this is a thrill for me today. This is like you're a superstar to me. I'm in awe of this conversation today. So thanks again for being here.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to share what we've learned. Lots of lessons along the way, lots of good, but lots of learning too. So thank you.
Sure. And let's start with this. I think part of today is we're going to fact check me. We're going to see if the story I've been telling has been accurate, because I want to hear it straight from you. And we know, bits and pieces and everything. But I talk about your journey into realizing you can be more efficient with your time, realizing that you could do things different and try to get more work done in less time, be more efficient, more profitability, get more work out the door, and have a family life too. And so let's start at the beginning. Did it just all of a sudden hit you that, hey, I'm putting in too many hours, I got to figure out how to do this? What was the catalyst of, we need to change what's going on here at the firm?
Yeah, really what happened was in late 2018, early 2019, we had gotten really clear on our vision for the firm. I had just been elected the next managing partner, so I got to create this vision for who we wanted to become and how we were going to get there. And so I just had all this clarity about what we could do to make the firm a place I wanted to still work for a long time, a place that other people would want to work. And we started looking at what are some of the reasons that people leave our profession, our firm specifically. And a lot of it was around compression of work during busy season, long hours, feeling like you have to sacrifice your personal life for professional success. A lot of us had seen that with, other partners in our firms. We retired some partners that, we would see how that had impacted them personally after a really successful career. And so once we got really clear on what we wanted to create and we started working towards it, things just really fell into place. And I found myself in this situation where my calendar was completely out of control. it looked like a game of Tetris, right? There was
Mhm.
just like anything could fit anywhere. I had transitioned out of client service and into business development and firm leadership. And so I just had all these different things going on, but it was all working in terms of we're trying to do this, we're trying to get here, we've got this project, and it was working, but it felt completely overwhelming because I was working every evening, I was working in the weekends, and even throughout each day, I was just exhausted. And I started to feel like, well, if this is what success looks like, I don't know if that's what I want. I say I value my family and my faith, and mostly, if you look at my calendar, that doesn't seem to have a space in there. And so, thankfully, I heard this podcast episode by Michael Hyatt. He was promoting a book that he had just released called Free to Focus. And he was the first successful person I ever heard say, you can win at work and succeed at life. You do not have to choose. He calls it the double win. And it struck me, this whole book is about, how to do that and about his experience. I had actually had a partner, a female partner in my firm several years prior when I was pregnant with my first child, tell me that I was going to have to choose.
Hmm.
I could either be a mom or I could have a successful career, but I was going to have to sacrifice something. And so here, several years later, to have somebody else say, that's not true,
Right.
completely shifted my paradigm. And that's where it started. To have someone say, no, that's not true. And here's how you approach that differently. That's what started the journey. And it was really just a personal journey for me to get my life under control and to feel like I could not be sacrificing any longer, especially when, what we were creating was something that I was really excited about and wanted to make happen, but not at the expense of everything else in my life. So that's where it began.
That's where it began. And so that is so often people get to that point and don't take the step to change things. Well, no, I mean, this is the way it's been. This is the way I'm doing. I'm making really good money. Why I'm going to just have to, power through this, schedule I got. And so I give you so much credit for saying yes, although it probably came to a head, but you said, yes, I need to make a change. So then, I mean, obviously you heard what Michael Hyatt said, you heard that you can have both, but then you had to do it. You had to start implementing. How did that come about or look like or evolve over time?
Yes. Yeah. So a couple of real principles that I learned and really mindset shifts. It's like changing what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to change the way you behave. If you don't believe it's possible, you're not going to do it. So that's where it started, was like this kind of, oh, somebody can do this. What does that mean? What does that look like? So there were a couple of key shifts. One was realizing I shouldn't be trying to get everything done. I should be trying to get the right things done. I had this belief that someday I would catch up.
Mm-hmm.
Someday, when this person comes back from maternity leave, when we get that project, when we fill this open position, after this thing wraps up, this perpetual, like, then it'll slow down, then I'll be caught up. I had that belief and I had to change it to say, no, that's not true. It will never happen. You will never be caught up. You have to stop trying to do that and start focusing on what are the right things to do. What is your role? What are your gifts and strengths? What is the unique contribution that you make? What are the priorities we've agreed on personally and professionally? And let some of this other stuff go. Get rid of it, delegate it to somebody else, find a way to automate it, but stop believing that there will be some magical day where it just is all done. So that was one of the big shifts. Another big shift in my thinking was, and this is tricky for an accountant who had been tracking time to the 10th of the hour for, at that point, almost 2 decades.
Mm-hmm.
The belief that more hours equal more productivity.
Mm-hmm.
That is not true.
Nope.
More productivity comes from managing your energy and your focus. And as soon as I understood that and learned how to apply it, that's when I realized I can actually get more done in less time if I am focused and leverage my energy. It's not just about managing time. Not all hours of the day are created equally. Our energy flexes throughout the day. We can do things to replenish our energy. We do certain things that totally drain us. But when we try to manage time, we think of it as if it's all equal. And so that was a huge mindset shift for me. So those are the two kind of core beliefs that had to change. And we can talk how I'll let you kind of decide where you want to go next. But then there were certain things, once I understood that and believed it, that I had to start doing differently as a result.
Yeah. So far, I think I'm fact checking okay. I think I've
Okay.
been okay on the story. A few things you said that I completely agree on. Well, everything you say, I completely agree on. But one of the things that I've been saying a lot lately, and honestly, I don't know if I got this from you in the past or not, but I love that leaning into your passions, your skills, where your time is best suited. Because I think we as a profession have a hard time with that. We want to control everything. I think that's a personality of us in the accounting profession. You know, this is my client. I've got to do everything with them. I've got to be the one to answer it. I've got to check my own email. I've got whatever it is. It's just I have to do. When in reality, a lot of those things you said we can automate, we can delegate, we can eliminate, things that there alone can make us somewhere much more efficient and probably keep us a higher energy level because we're doing the things we love.
Yes.
And so I think that's great.
Yes, what you're describing there within that framework that you mentioned in my intro that I created, the simple ScaleUp system,
Yep.
we call that human intelligence. It's when you understand your gifts, your strengths, and your unique abilities and you leverage them, you're more effective and fulfilled.
Yep.
We call it a turbocharger. It's like this kind of additional, optional add on to a vehicle that will make the same vehicle, the same fuel, produce even more output. You don't have to have a turbocharger, but when you do, it just enhances what's already there.
Yep.
It's like finding, $20 in your coat pocket. It's like it was there, you just didn't know it. And so it's like that's even like the next level, I would say, Randy, is like managing your energy and your focus. Stop trying to get everything done and do the right things. And then if you can even go a step further and understand the way you think, feel, and take action, the three different parts of your mind, what we use is your Clifton Strengths, your Enneagram, and your Colby, and then leverage that to decide what you do and how you do it. It's just exponentially more effective as well.
Yeah, we've used Clifton Strengths Finders, and that was one of the most impactful things when we did this as a company group. We all got together and everybody found out what they're one of the four, whatever, the doer, the get stuff done, the relationship builders, the influencers, and the strategic thinkers. I think I got that. One of them I said.
Yes, that's
basically. But man, when you see that, what we did is we broke into four corners of the room, and each corner had whatever group you fell in. You were sitting in that corner, and then you talked amongst yourselves. And then this person who was running this said, okay, now look at the other groups. And it was just, it was common sense, but I looked around and I go, wow, this company goes nowhere if everybody's sitting in this corner where I'm at right now. We run so much better with that group and able to concentrate on what their passions and skills are. This group gets to concentrate that group. And that, it's like a goosebump moment for me when I think back to that. And over the years, I've started calling this, whether it makes sense or not, getting people to live at the intersection of their passions and their skills, because that's where I feel I live. And man, I don't feel like I work. I feel energized all the time. So thank you for sharing that story. I appreciate that.
Yes.
All right. So I know in the past when I've heard you talk and you've talked about this and the positive impact it's had on you and what that created, but then you went a step further and it was not just, you starting to do this, you rolled it out to the team. And how did that work and the impact of that?
Yes. So as I mentioned, that podcast sparked this kind of thing for me personally. And so it was never a journey to change my firm or impact the profession or, what eventually became a coaching program we have with small businesses and nonprofit leaders. It was a survival mechanism. But what happened was when I started implementing the practices of, setting a daily big three, what are the most important things to do today, a weekly big three, what's most important this week, planning my week ahead, reflecting on the prior week, these different things that, managing energy through rhythms and boundary, all these different things. When I started to do them, my team noticed. And I don't think I was, like a flake before, but they noticed. What are you doing? You're showing up differently. You're less frazzled, you're dropping fewer balls, you're, you know, spending more time doing fun things in the evenings and weekends. And really, one of the first decisions I made, one of the first boundaries I put in place was I'm no longer working nights and weekends.
Nice.
And so that was very evident to my team. And, that had been my default before. And so what happened once I made that decision is then that thought would creep in during the day. Something else comes onto my plate that I wasn't planning on. I guess I'll just finish that tonight. Oh, wait, I don't work nights anymore. So what am I going to do? I either need to get something else off my plate, renegotiate a commitment I already made, or find another way. And every once in a while, make an intentional exception to work a little later.
Right.
That happens, but that's not the default anymore.
Yep.
So that just naturally was apparent to my team, and they started asking, what are you doing? And so I shared with them, we all got the book, there's a planner, a physical planner that Michael Hyatt created called the Full Focus Planner that I'm now certified to teach and use it within our whole firm uses it. We use it within our coaching program. But anyway, we started rolling it out just within our executive team and then within our leadership team and then eventually to our whole team. And then, I'd speak about it at a breakout session at a conference, and that would lead to, private trainings with other firms. And it's just gone on and on and on. That was never my intention. It was just so incredibly impactful for me and my team. And so it was really about teaching them the mindset shifts that we already talked about, and then the behavioral shifts, planning what you're going to do this quarter, this week, this day, and setting rhythms and boundaries in place to kind of automate some of the things you want to get done in your life. Like, if you have a time in the morning, you want to take a walk, maybe for me, it's take a walk, do devotions, drink my coffee, do my, personal budgeting app, those things that you kind of like, sometimes we want to get them done, but we can't figure out how to fit them into our life. And you put them together into these routines. You just stack these habits together and it changes your ability to get things done because it automates it. So it's those types of things that we just, implementing these practices of essentially the full focus system first and teaching our team to do it as well. And what we found was that eventually we could get more done in less time. But just like for me, that first boundary I set in place personally was I don't work nights and weekends anymore. The first boundary we set in place at the firm level was we don't work more than 50 hours a week during tax season. And then you got to figure out what do we got to do to manage our energy and our focus so we can still get all this stuff done. And so that's kind of how it cascaded very organically because it made such an impact on my ability to show up and get things done and have a personal life as well.
Which is hugely important. Let's talk about that 50 hours for a second, because somebody might be thinking, okay, so what they did is they just put everything on extension and everything got done later. Were you getting more work out the door in this less time that you had, or how did that work?
Yeah. So, well, to tell you the whole story.
Yeah.
The first year we did it was 2020. And if it hadn't been for COVID extending the due date, we would have been in big trouble. And so we capped the hours, and people were really pretty good about capping the hours, stopping at 50. What we had some people who weren't as good at was managing their energy and focus to get more done in the 50 that they were working.
Right.
So coming out of that, towards the end of 2020, we had to think, okay, well, was that just something we tried and it didn't work? Or are we going to double down and figure out what we need to do differently to make this happen? And as an executive team and as a leadership team, we had all experienced it personally that we could do this. And so we're like, we're not giving up. We need to double down, and we're going to do more training. We're going to do more one-on-one coaching. We're going to get more visibility on how people are doing, not so that we can penalize them if they go over 50 hours, so we can coach them and guide them on how to change their beliefs and their habits so they don't have to. Because the thing about time is that we think by putting in more hours, we're getting more done. And there's tons of research that shows that's not true.
Right.
You actually go backwards in effectiveness, especially after 50, 55 hours, it kind of drops off like a cliff. So we think we're getting more done, but we really aren't. So why are we doing this at the expense of, quality of service to our clients, our own personal lives and our families, our health? Why are we doing this if it's not even effective? And so we really believe that. We did experience it ourselves. And so we just put more effort into the training and the coaching. And so 2021 was our second busy season doing this. And that's when we saw the results. We just in that January through April timeframe, our team, we cut 2,500 total hours and we increased our billable hours by something like 1,300.
Hmm.
So I'm going to say that again. So total hours down 2,500, billable up 1,300 when you compare the same group of people in the same time frame. So we absolutely got more done in less time.
Nice.
We also decided some things weren't the right things to do right now. We don't need to do these things in this season. We don't need to do them this way. We can automate some of these things. We eventually got to the point where that became so effective that using time as a measurement of really anything for us became pretty irrelevant. But it was a journey. And for sure in 2020, we were grateful for the COVID extension.
Well, you just mentioned time. Let's talk about that because you said billable hours, but I think at this point you are no longer tracking hours, or how'd
Right.
that transition happen?
Yes. So we stopped tracking time November 1st of 2022.
All right.
So that's the date that Forge became a thing. So we split off from a firm called TDT, CPAs and Advisors. That's the firm I started right out of college, built my career there, became the managing partner there. And eventually we just had these two very different business models within the firm, and we had a unanimous decision to split. So TDT remains a very successful tax firm, very rooted in Southeast Iowa. And the audit practice that I had built, and then the virtual CFO and controller practice that I had launched, they were serving clients virtually all over the country, just in a completely different model. So we split. And we had, in our 3-year vision at that time, we had a vision around eliminating time entry, but it wasn't in our 1-year horizon until we got the quote from the software company to stand up our time and billing system again as Forge. And I thought, you know what? Never mind. We're not doing that.
We don't
The
do
time
this.
is now. Yes. So we decided we're just not going to buy a new time and billing system as Forge when we don't want that long term. We decided to split. It goes around the end of April of 22. It was effective November 1st. So that was our time horizon to be prepared, but we'd been preparing for it for years because we had been pricing all of our work in advance in those two service areas for years and years. We knew what we were going to, bill people. We knew the scope of things. We'd been value pricing.
Hmm.
There's a lot of things that had predicated that. It wasn't like we just ripped off the Band-Aid and we're like, well, let's figure this out now. There were a lot of steps already in place. And the more we had our team getting more done in less time because they could manage their focus and energy, the less effective measure of value that became.
Right.
And the more things we could find to automate, same thing. It's like, if you do this and you keep billing based on WIP, your revenue could actually go down because there's less going into the WIP, but they're still getting the same things. And that just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's what we did. And so we've been, almost 3 years now. It'll be 2.5 years with no timesheets.
I assume people are enjoying that
Yes.
internally.
Yes. Actually, it's interesting. Yeah, I thought I would get they'd lift me up, and cheer me on. And there was some of that. Like people were thrilled to not
Right.
have the administrative burden of entering time and reviewing WIP and all of that. But one thing I hadn't really expected there were a few people on our team who, based on kind of their personality and their wiring, really missed the metric.
Okay.
How will you know how good I'm doing if you can't see my hours or my utilization rate or my realization. And so we had to help people understand the different metrics that we were focusing on,
Mm-hmm.
like revenue per client, profit per person, those types of things,
Right.
net promoter score, client renewal rates, like different measures of outcomes,
Yep.
not inputs.
Yeah.
And so that was a shift. And so that was probably the only thing that surprised me about people's reactions
Oh,
to
yeah.
it. There's all kinds of things we can talk about too of lessons learned, but I definitely we're not going back there for sure. Like that's never been a thought that's crossed our mind.
Yeah, and that's the mindset thing you said earlier. It's just, hey, this is the mind. This is what we know. We know hours. We know how I can, show how valuable I am by the hours, and just getting people's mindset to change. Yes, there's different metrics. There's different way we can look at this. It's just change is scary to, I think,
Mm-hmm.
everybody in reality. And so I can see a little bit of pushback on that, but it sounds like you've gotten past that, which is nice.
Yeah. And I will, just for context too, for your listeners, TDT was about 70-person firm. Forge, what we became when we split off those two departments, and then we added management consulting when we became Forge, 40 people. So, we're not talking about a shift of hundreds of people within a few months. The relatively small, nimble team requires a lot of leadership and change management to do anything. But just for a little context, that's what we're talking about there. And I had talked to a couple of other firms who had done this before, what lessons they had learned. One, I think, had been timesheet free for like a decade already
Oh,
when we
wow.
did this.
All
So
right.
there's people out there, doing these kinds of
Oh, yeah.
things, but not a lot.
No, there isn't. I actually talked to somebody recently. He was a managing partner of one of the top 10 firms, and he said he was talking to somebody in a big four, and they said, hey, the first one of us four that figure out how to get rid of timesheets is the one that's going to, quote, win. I don't know if you win in the profession, but that's what they said. So I think everybody's looking at it, trying to figure out. I think AI is going to impact that as well. My concern is, like what you did. I'm not concerned about what you did, but what you did, I'm concerned about other people look at that. They'll say, oh, well, we're working less, so we can't charge as much. We're
Yeah.
more efficient, so, we have to pass that on to the client. You're delivering probably more value in that time. And that's another mindset thing that we have to get past. Was that ever an issue that you had to deal with?
I would say not necessarily for us. I mean, because I'm a faculty member for Upstream and I also do speaking and coaching and, different people that's one of the frequently asked questions,
Yep.
like, what about that? How do you manage that? But I think that one of the things that we really had to, understand and work through is the mindset shift around inputs versus outcomes.
Yep.
That how long this takes us does not equate to the value
Nope.
that the client receives. And we had to stop thinking that way, which I get it. It's hard when we've been doing that for hundreds of years as a profession. It's a
Exactly.
huge shift in thinking, but we were able to get past that. We had to really learn to manage scope and change orders
Oh, yeah.
because
Yep.
though our engagement letters have always said, if something comes up out of scope, we'll talk to you about it first and before we move forward with the work. The reality was it was usually caught when somebody reviewed the WIP after the fact, and then we go and bill the client and kind of hope they didn't get mad about it.
Right.
And so when you don't have a timesheet, you don't have a safety net to catch those extra hours on a timesheet when you're reviewing WIP. And so we really had to make sure our team understood when we price things in advance, it's for a set scope of work. And if we do something beyond that scope, we have to do a change order to get paid for it. And so that was, something that really had to be built into the process as well.
Nice. There's some other things I want to get to, and we're already at a half hour, which is fine. I'm going to keep going if you got time.
Yes, absolutely. Keep going.
But I want to, cut to today, because before we started recording, you told me what the hours were this past tax season. So let's fast forward from 22 when timesheet stopped to how this last tax season go.
Yeah. So this last tax season, we finally got to the point where our tax team really didn't go over 40 hours, partners and all, able to keep within that. boundary. And some of it is what you mentioned earlier, Randy, of like, oh, you just extended everything. Yeah, I mean, we do extend a lot of things.
Which I think is great.
That's part,
Yes.
yeah, that's part of the process, is to decide what needs to be done when and what could be extended. But, a lot of it comes down to managing energy and focus, which are daily choices that
Yep.
people have to make. And so it takes time for people to change what they think. It takes time for them to change their behaviors, and then collectively as a team to build, different paradigms and systems and processes to do that. But yeah, so 5 years after the initial, 50-hour cap, the COVID year, we were able to get to 40.
Nice. What you just said about extending, that's something I've always been a proponent of forever, because why do we try to get everything done in 75 days or whatever the time
Yeah.
frame when we have the rest of the year? And as advisors and your advisors, you know the answers already on most of the stuff because you're doing tax planning ahead of time. So why do we have this, it's not an artificial deadline, but a deadline that is only just set there because it's set there. Mm-hmm. And in reality, we don't need to. So yeah, I love the fact that you stretch out the seasonality of the tax season as well. All right. So that's that. I mean, there's a lot in between. We could have talked about that, but I do want to get to a few other things because I've seen other things you've been doing. But one of the things, and we mentioned this in the intro, is, you pretty much, it sounds like you've taken this knowledge and what you're doing and you've started your own system now, the Simple ScaleUp system. Explain what that is and who you're using it with.
Yeah, so the Simple ScaleUp system is a proprietary framework that I created. It's essentially a business intelligence and leadership development system. So it's a set of practices, principles, and tools, a body of content that is really designed to help leaders of small businesses, nonprofit organizations, including CPA firms. We've got some clients that are also CPA firms, but to really help them be equipped to lead the bigger business that their vision built.
Got it.
Okay. So you think about, so much of the time we focus on growing and what do we need to do for growth initiatives and marketing and sales. And all of a sudden, when that works, you have a different business. When your business is larger, it gets more complex. You have more people. And that's a whole different thing that requires different systems and structures to actually lead.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's really 4 main parts of a business that you need to focus on when you're scaling to the next level or when you're leading that business that you've already gotten to that size. And it's finance, leadership, productivity, and people. And it's essentially, this whole system and all the tools in it are just a reverse engineering of what we did to build our firm, to build the audit practice originally, to build the virtual CFO practice, to, carve off and become Forge. These are the things that I learned along the way and how we did things. And it was created when we launched Forge. That was part of our vision, was to add management consulting. We were continuing the financial side of things with virtual CFO, controller, audit, tax. But what those services really do is give visibility on what's happening in the organization, right? Mm-hmm. If we do our job right, we're translating the story that the money tells about what's happening in the organization. And what I was finding was that more and more clients were starting to ask, so what do I do? How do I make decisions? If this is the problem that the money reveals, how do I solve it? And these were questions about capacity, leadership decisions, leveraging resources, managing people's energy and focus, knowing their gifts and strengths. And so instead of taking a bunch of, one-off lunches and coffees and kind of saying, well, I did this and I've done that, and here's what I use for this, I just set out to create a framework that we could use as the content basis for our management consulting practice. And that's what the Simple ScaleUp system is. And then after we created it, we beta tested delivering it through one-on-one executive coaching, private consulting with leadership teams, and a group workshop format. And they all worked because I needed to prove, like, do these tools even work if Courtney's not the leader? Because that's the only proof I've got is they work for me.
Right.
And thankfully they did. But it just so happened that the model of the group coaching program was the one that we chose. That was the strategy. It really aligns with my passion and proficiency. I come from a family of teachers and preachers. I love being able to teach and lead a workshop. I love having people together in person, building community. And so we turned our primary management consulting delivery method at this point is Scaling Leader, which is a group business coaching and leadership development program where we use the content from the Simple ScaleUp system. And then I do a limited number of private coaching and private consulting engagements throughout the year, but most of the effort is going into that kind of one-to-many business model of a group program.
Makes sense. But you did say there are some CPA firms that you worked with on the
Yeah.
system. Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I've done private training with a lot of firms, specifically around productivity and focus and helping, they have this, similar goal or vision to reduce the hours, and they want guidance on how to do that. And I am certified in the full focus system, so I'm able to teach that. And then we also, within the Simple ScaleUp system, built some additional tools to help kind of bolster that work. And so we can pair those together. And then we do have some firms in our Scaling Leader group coaching program as well.
Nice. All right. So I honestly can never hear enough of the story that you share and the way you've done this with you or yourself and the firm and the hours that you've got down. 40. I didn't even know 40 until you told me today. So that was amazing. That just puts a big smile on my face. So here's my question to you. You've done all this. You're helping others do this. You obviously did it for yourself. You've gained more time personally. So what are your outside of work passions? What do you enjoy doing? Now that you've beat the system, you found out how to have a work-life balance that people don't think we can do. What do you do with that time?
Yeah, well, I love to travel. So my husband and I have always been road trippers. We've got 3 kids. We've turned them into great little travelers. And so that's a huge passion of mine. I love to travel, road trip, take vacations. I also am a huge fan of clean stand-up comedy.
Oh.
Nate Bargatze is one of my favorites.
Yes.
And so,
he is awesome.
He is. And so I listen to the podcast every week. I've been to so many of his live shows. I just can't get enough of it. Yes. And so
I've
laughter, that
gone.
fun. Oh, you got to go, Randy. You got to go sometime. He's working on a movie right now. And so I've heard that he might not have a tour again for a few years. So you got to get out there this year.
That's what he's touring this year, I know. And so I've been looking at all the dates. I'm like, okay, I think we're just going to travel somewhere and go, because he's at the United Center here in Chicago. But my wife's like, but that's so big. Can't we see him somewhere else? But we have to do that. That's when you said that, you just lit me up. I really want to do that this year.
Yes, I hope you do. It's very fun. So those are a couple things that I love to do. And then I just love that, each morning I start the morning taking a walk around my neighborhood, listening to my devotions and my podcasts, drinking my coffee and thinking, just like a completely different way to start my day versus, I used to sleep until the last possible minute and snooze the alarm and kind of come into my day already kind of frazzled. And I remember my mom, she taught second grade for years, and she would always say, I can't wait until I retire. I can enjoy my coffee in the morning, just in my chair. And I thought, you know what? I don't have to wait until I retire. That's one of the things that actually, when we had a launch party for Forge back in 2022, that's one of the things I told my team. My vision for this firm is that we can be successful personally and professionally, that we're not waiting for retirement to do the things we want to do, that we have enough margin in our lives to do those things now. And so that's one of the things for me that's just a simple everyday thing that I get to do and enjoy.
Yep. And that, again, mindset. I don't have to wait till we're recording this about 2 weeks before our conference that's coming up. And I'm writing a keynote right now. I've been doing this since January, so I've been working on it for a long time. But mindset is a big part of it. So I love the conversation about mindset. All right. So last thing then. If people want to hear more about what you're doing, hear maybe more about the Simple ScaleUp system, or just see what you're doing, where's good places for them to look?
So for me directly, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active. I usually post a video. And so Courtney De Ronde on LinkedIn. And then our website is forgeahead.com. So you can find links to Scaling Leader, the Simple ScaleUp system, our events and things there at forgeahead.com, or I'd love to connect on LinkedIn.
Sounds great. Courtney, this has been years in the making. I'm glad we got it done today. I really appreciate you being on the show. It did not disappoint me in any manner at all. I was love hearing your story. So thank you so much.
Well, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. Always great to chat, Randy.
Thank you for joining us today on the Unique CPA. You can find the show notes for today's episode and learn more about TriMerit at theuniquecpa.com. Remember to subscribe and leave a 5-star rating on your favorite podcasting app. And join us next time for more expertise and insights on the Unique CPA. Professionalproductions.net